All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. This is a team who has made a massive transformation this offseason, whether it's the coach, the front office, or the players on this team. And there's one player in particular that we're going to talk about today who's looking like a strong leader from this team and a very underrated playmaker as well. I think Bears fans are going to like this one. But before we get into that, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, one player in particular for this Bears team really growing and becoming an undervalued leader on this team and really an underrated playmaker as well. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. Our first article today is from over on MSN.com and it says, as he's gotten to know some of his new teammates and pass rush partners, Jarrett, talking about Grady Jarrett, the new addition to Chicago, shared his experience so far getting to know defensive tackle Javon Dexter Sr. Says, it's been awesome. I think he has a really, really high ceiling, Jarrett said. Run game being effective in the pass rush and growing as a leader too. While speaking with reporters on Wednesday, Jarrett spoke more about the leadership role that Dexter has been showing this offseason. Jarrett revealed that Dexter actually invited Jarrett as soon as he signed down to Miami to work out with him and other pass rushers from around the league. I thought it was a big gesture for him to invite me to be able to hang out with them, spend some time, work on the craft, Jarrett added. I think that's been good for our relationship even before we got in the building. That just showed his willingness to try and take that next step. I think this is incredibly important for the Bears and Javon Dexter Sr. as well. Just a guy who seems like he's finally making that leap. He's finally taking the next step. And Grady Jarrett, a veteran, a great player from around the league who's seen a lot of good stuff going on. He's been a mainstay for that Falcons team for a very long time before he came over to the Bears, noticing, hey, this is a guy that's about to break through. He's very underrated as a player. He has an extremely high ceiling, but he's also starting to take that leadership role for this team as well, inviting Jarrett to come work out and get off-season work done with them even before they meet and get into the building. I think this is a really strong start and really strong showing for Javon Dexter. I'm really excited for what he's able to do this season because that's the key here. The Bears, they've done a total rehaul. The offensive line is different. They've added a lot of pieces to the defensive line over the last year or two. This is a team that really needs to come all in with Ben Johnson and try to win right now on this Caleb Williams rookie deal. I think it's going to be big for them. And for guys like Javon Dexter to step up and really make the leap, take the next step, I think that's going to be crucial in this team being one of the top teams in the NFL next season. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Bears fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about guys taking the next step, breaking out, becoming leaders on this team. We're talking about Javon Dexter, but let us know, is there anyone else on this team that you think is going to take the next step this season? Is there anyone that you think you've seen something out of them, you saw something in OTAs, you've seen things go on early on and say, hey, this is a guy that's going to take the next step, and who's your breakout candidate for this season? Let us know in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest out of Chicago?
Having leadership emerge from young guys is obviously a great sign, especially when you're in a transition phase. I think that's one of the things you look for teams that are trying to turn the corner. When you have talented young guys taking advantage of opportunities, right? One of the things you see a lot in terms of the business world, the startup world, things like that, anyone who follows a sort of Silicon Valley kind of deal, is that when companies go into transitions, when they go from a startup to, hey, we're trying to turn the corner, is when you see some of these younger, talented guys in these organizations step up and take leadership roles. And that's when you know a company has a chance to really turn it around and really elevate. Because anytime you're in a chaotic environment, there's a lot of change going on, you're trying to take a big step forward, a lot of young guys tend to sort of cower down and just sort of hunker down and just try not to get their head too extended because it's a chaotic environment. You're trying to improve. There's a lot of things going on. A guy like Dexter stepping up, I know Bears fans are really high on him. I'm high on him as well. I think he's got a really bright future just in his performance alone. But the fact that he's stepping up as a leader, even with the addition of so many veteran guys across the roster, certainly Grady Jarrett coming to mind as an interior defensive lineman, to me shows that this Bears organization did have a lot of quality guys, a quality group of core players already on the roster from years past, right? Anyone goes through this offseason like the Bears had, which was a big overhaul, right? I believe 13 free agents signed, 8 draft picks, so 21 total guys that say only 53 guys make the final roster. So just doing a quick math there, that's about 60% of your roster is going to be that's the majority, right? Over 50%, 60% roughly of the team that was really bad last year is still going to be on your team this year, right? So it's not like last year's total team was an absolute dumpster fire, right? You had some key guys. You're just now looking forward to them to take that leap, take on new responsibilities, continue to grow and develop now that you have new leadership in house with Ben Johnson and his staff. And let's give a lot of credit to Dexter for being willing and able to step up as a leader. He's a guy that's trending up in his performance. And I'm looking to see some other Bears guys follow the same path as well. Of course, a lot of our eyes are on Caleb Williams. I think he's got to take that next step. Of course, having Ben Johnson as his OC and in a much more talented structure around him, I think will certainly help out his performance. But I think across the board, we're going to see a lot of these Bears guys, especially these younger guys, right? Dexter's like 23 years old. We're going to see a lot of these younger guys like take advantage of this opportunity, kind of grab the bull by the horns here and say, listen, I'm going to step up. I'm the guy who's been here for a few years. We got a lot of new guys coming in. I'm just not going to, hand it all over to them and say, hey, listen, you're the vet. I'm hands off now, right? It's your responsibility to fix this. No, I'm going to take accountability and be part of the change as well. I love to see that from young guys in an organization. You can bring in veterans to change the culture. You can bring in coaches to change the culture, and that's what you should do, and that's what the Bears have done. But what really elevates a football team is when guys on their own accord, the younger guys, take it on themselves to take on those leadership roles while continuing to improve their performance. I think what Dexter has done this offseason, and the fact that Grady, Jarrett, who again, pro's pro, right? Whether you love the Falcons, hate the Falcons, don't care about the Falcons, to a man inside the NFL and out, right? Whether you're a player, coach, media member, whatever it may be, Grady Jarrett is considered the consummate professional. The fact that Jarrett is saying these things is obviously incredibly high praise. I'm looking at Dexter to be the future, maybe even current leader of this Bears defense. He's obviously a very talented player that's trending in the right direction in terms of his performance. This is yet another really good sign that the Bears are going to be a lot better than people think, right? Sort of the opposite of last year. A lot of people predicted the Bears to just have a maniacally great season. Didn't work out that way, of course. The Hail Mary against Washington just set off a cascade of events. But I think what we're seeing now from Chicago is a completely different mindset. It's a much more solid culture, and it's not just with the new additions. It's with guys like Dexter stepping up.
Yeah, Nick, and I think that's the key here. You see, the one thing that stood out to me is across this defensive line, across this defense, really, Dexter's one of the youngest, if not the youngest guys that's a starter on this defense. You look, Grady Jarrett, guy 32 years old, a Sweat, a guy that's 20, almost 29 years old. Even Ode Ingbo, the other new addition that they brought in, a guy who's almost 26 years old. Javon Dexter, definitely the youngest guy there at 23. And for him to step up, for him to start to take that role as the leader, to bring people in, I think that's going to be crucial, because if this guy can break out and have a big season for the Bears, they've got a young star on this team that they can lock down for a long time. Because Grady Jarrett, he is a pro's pro. He is a great player, and I think he's going to add a lot to this defense, but he's not going to be around forever. His years are numbered. I think he maybe has 2-3 more years of play in the NFL, and then, 35, 36 years old, that's pretty old for a defensive lineman. There's not much more you can do at that point. So I think that's really important, and that's a really great sign for this Bears team that Dexter is stepping up and really taking that leadership role. But, we can talk about it. The other players can talk about it, but sometimes other people can talk about things as well. People who love stats and analytics, and show that Dexter is breaking out and he's set to be a big one. So I want to read a second article that we have here, just showing that PFF has Dexter as a guy who's ready to break out. He's a very underrated playmaker as well. And so this again from PFF, and it says, Dexter took a step forward in year 2, delivering a 70.3 PFF overall grade, which ranked 24th among players at his position. His 39 quarterback pressures gave him a top 20 mark for the regular season, coming in 15 games across 365 pass rush snaps, which ranked 39th at that position. Over the past 2 seasons, Dexter has been in on 10 sacks, which ranks him only behind Montez Sweat on the team during that span. So this is a guy, he's getting up there. He's getting in the top defensive lineman. He's in the top 20 in some categories, especially when it talks about quarterback pressures. He's one of the top sack leaders on this team now, only behind Montez Sweat over the past 2 years. This is a guy doing a lot of good stuff. An interior defensive lineman coming in and doing a lot of great things in the pass rush game. You love to see that. He's really living up to his potential. So when you hear veteran guys who even weren't on the team last year talk about what Dexter's doing, and you see the analytics, you see the growth and the potential in a player like Dexter, I think we have the potential here for something really special to happen, for Javon Dexter to break out as both a leader and play on the field this coming season and become an absolute star for the Bears.
Because it's important, right, when you look at value in dollars too. Obviously, the Bears have spent a lot of money. Odeyingbo, obviously, the guys on the offensive line, they've used a lot of draft capital as well, and they're going to have to pay a lot of money for those guys over the upcoming seasons, of course, in terms of upgrading the roster at key positions. When you do that, you're going to have some of these cheaper young guys ready to step up and perform and take on additional roles. And I go back to my initial statement, right? Anytime in any organization, and a football team is no different, you have newcomers come in and they're going to try and change the culture. The reality is, if you look at a Grady, Jarrett, if you look at an Odeyingbo, if you look at, offensive line guys like Tooney or Dahlman, for example, or anybody on this list, anytime you're new to an organization, there's an acclimation period, right? Anyone who's ever changed jobs and moves understands that, right? You go to a new city, you go to a new state, whatever, you got a new job. Even if you're going there for a leadership role, a big time contributor role, it takes a few weeks, it takes a few months to get your bearings underneath you, learn the players, learn the people, understand the situations. During that time, which is what we're in right now for the Bears, there's sort of a leadership vacuum, right? There needs to be guys to step up, while a guy like Grady, Jarrett, who will have a leadership voice, that's undeniable, kind of figures out what the lay of the land is in Chicago, the schemes, the coaches, all that kind of stuff, figure out what the deal is. That's going to take time. It's probably going to get through training camp before the rest of these veterans the Bears have added have finally up to speed and are ready to take on those additional roles. It's not something that happens overnight. We like to think of it as people outside the NFL as like, oh, you sign a veteran in March, and he immediately is going to change the entire culture of your team. It doesn't happen that way. These are big organizations. These are human beings. It takes a lot of time for these veterans to get acclimated and figure it out. They're only human. In that case, you need guys who are already there, who are willing to facilitate that leadership and cultural change themselves, right? A lot of organizations, whether football teams or not, like I said before, these younger guys tend to just hunker down. They don't want to stick their neck out. They don't want to take on the additional responsibility. They're concerned on their own path. Dexter is not like that. I think based on the data, his performance, he is clearly a breakout star. He's emerging as a big-time playmaker. But I think it's also very clear that the Bears have found their next leader. People that take advantage of these opportunities, that are this focused on becoming a key voice at such a young age, I think they become much more impactful as time goes on. They don't become less impactful. They don't become less leader-like. They become more like a leader in the locker room, more like a leader on the practice field. A lot of people like Dexter's performance. They think he should get more playing time, more opportunities. I agree, and the data supports it. But I think his impact as just, again, a voice as part of the cultural change in Chicago is underrated, as well as his performance, as you brought up his data. It's clear, as much as the Bears have added a lot of great pieces, that just the development and the growth of Javon Dexter Sr. here has a chance to be one of the biggest moves the Bears have made this entire offseason.